Yes.
Okay.
Welcome everyone. Welcome to How to Build a Successful Life Using NLP Part 2. Today's topic will be how to use NLP to improve your communication skills and influence. And my very special guest today is the amazing and fabulous Master NLP trainer, Doug O'Brien. Welcome, Doug.
Hey, thanks very much. I'm glad to be back.
So, Doug, tell me, how can I use NLP to improve my communication skills?
Well, we in the NLP game like to say that neuro-linguistic programming, language is our middle name because of neuro-linguistics. It's true. Neuro-linguistics is about the effective language on your neurology. In a sense, that's what it is. It's how does language affect our neurology, and also what is the language of our neurology? Because not only do we speak in words, but we also are influenced by the sort of language, the linguistics of what we see, how we hear things, what we say to ourselves, the feelings that we get, smells that we smell, tastes that we taste. This whole thing is kind of a computer language of this neurological brain. So what's interesting is that these five senses that we have, the visual, the auditory, the kinesthetic, the things we see, the things we hear, the things we feel, and also the smell and the taste, are kind of the processing elements for which this neurological language takes place. And then when it is then translated, if you will, into verbal language and our nonverbal language, but our body language as well, that it turns out that certain people have what we call preferential systems. So some people, as an example, really see pictures very easily in their mind. They're visually oriented. So they see pictures in their mind. They make pictures of what they want in their future. They visualize really easily. You say, what color was your house when you're growing up? And they go, oh, it was blue. They can just see it really clearly. And say, what would that house look like if it was painted yellow? It's like, oh, well, it would be kind of okay. They can visualize the differences. They're really good visually. And so a person who has this facility for visual might, in fact, just feel so comfortable there that they spend most of their time in their visual world and don't pay that much attention, perhaps, to the sounds that are around them or the feelings that are being felt. They might be almost cut off from their feelings a little bit because they're so visually oriented. Whereas somebody else might be so in their feelings about things, they just have to get a grasp on what it is that's being presented and, feel their way through, that they're so into their feelings about things that they develop a comfort level for that system, and they express themselves about how things feel to them, and this is, I hear what you're saying, but it just doesn't feel right to me. I have to, it's not, I don't know, I can't get a grasp on what it is that you're trying to, they speak in terms of the kinesthetics, the feelings, the touching, tactile things. So when communication takes place between these two types of people, sometimes it's like they're speaking completely different languages, right? And they might have best of intentions of communicating well with each other, but they just literally are speaking different languages. So NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, helps us to understand that even though we're both speaking English, we may be speaking very different neurological languages, different nonverbal languages and extraverbal languages, if you will, of visual or kinesthetic or auditory, and that can be a really big impasse. As an example, if a couple, husband, wife, whatever, a couple of different people are fond of each other, but one has a visual way of processing the world, and therefore to experience a feeling of love, an inner sensation of being loved, they have to see evidence for that. You have to show me that you love me. You have to, show me, give me flowers or whatever. Another person who has got a more of a kinesthetic sense might need to have an evidence procedure for love of a tactile sense. You need to hug me in a certain way, or we need to, caress each other in a certain way for me to feel that inner feeling of love. That feeling means love to me. But for you, maybe it's, a visual thing. You have to see the evidence for you to feel love inside. So even though we may, the couples might be very much in love with each other, they're not getting the communication. One person keeps trying to show them, see, I told you, see, I told you, see, I told you. The other person's like, yeah, I just don't feel it. I don't feel it. And I keep trying to show you by, hugging you. So why would you keep running away and showing me shit? I don't want to see that stuff. I want to be held. So they're just not getting it. So as an NLP practitioner, what we have to sometimes do is to say, hey, stop. You know how you feel inside when you see certain things? Well, that's how your partner feels inside when he or she is touched in a certain way. And then you say to the other person, you know how you feel deep inside when you're touched in a certain way and you're held and caressed? Well, that's how he or she feels when you take them out to a movie or on a night on the town and they see the bright lights in the big city. They see those things. That makes them feel love inside. So, this couple suddenly starts to actually get what it is that they're each trying to communicate, but now they actually have a common language, and that's what neuro-linguistic programming can do. That's perhaps a somewhat extreme example, but it's not uncommon, actually. People have these different languages, and that NLP helps us to understand that to really communicate with somebody, you have to understand, kind of how they take in the world and how they represent the world to themselves. And if we can meet them there, then we have far, far greater influence on how they might agree to our suggestions for things, sales for a new house or, whatever it might be, or a love relationship or, whatever it might be, that they get it.
Wow. That, it's interesting. That should be like understanding humans 101.
Right.
Yeah. We'd sure cut out a lot of extra stuff, if we understood that concept, how people see and understand things, their languages, even for children, maybe even how they learn. Like some children learn, kinesthetically, and some learn visually, audio. Jump in here, Doug. Yes, that's it. That seems like, I think that's something that we should all learn by the time we enter, first grade.
Yes.
So now understanding how it can improve my communication skills a lot, how am I able to use this now to influence?
Well, it's funny you should say that. People who do learn auditorily, which is the word you were looking for before, would want to hear a description about what it is that you're trying to persuade them about. A person who is, more visually oriented would need to be sort of painted a picture or shown diagrams or whatever to see what it is that you're trying to get across. People need to get it in their languages. So we as NLP practitioners practice being able to communicate in these, different languages, if you will, and to have the flexibility that people don't have to be talking my language for me to communicate with them. I have the flexibility as an NLP practitioner to step into their world. So as NLP practitioners, what you do is you create flexibility of behavior. Flexibility is, in fact, power. Tony Robbins has often used that phrase, flexibility is power. Because if you have the flexibility to, talk to visual people visually, or, talk to kinesthetic people kinesthetically, or olfactory people, the smells or the tastes, it's a small group, but, chefs, perfumeries, people really have those senses as well as their preferential system. If you can have the flexibility to step into those worlds, you can influence anybody. So it's a very powerful thing. NLP, by the way, also goes a little further. I think we talked last week about how NLP is kind of a modeling system for you find what works for somebody and you take their programming into your computer and then process it yourself that way. NLP has done that modeling on some great persuaders. As an example, there's a whole system in NLP, usually taught at the master practitioner level, called sleight of mouth, which I wrote a book on. The User's Guide to Sleight of Mouth is a book I wrote. Sleight of mouth is basically NLP modeling a great salesperson, basically, somebody who could persuade anybody of anything. Somebody who could sell snowballs to an Eskimo kind of thing. That kind of persuader was modeled by NLP, and they found out that there's certain patterns of language patterns that they use that help reframe a belief system conversationally. So that's another application of NLP in persuasion, is the sleight of mouth stuff.
Okay. I have to say, I read your book and I thought it was awesome. It actually opened up my eyes to a lot of interesting things, and, beliefs and how they're developed, and how easily, they can be, how easily we take them in and operate from a place where we're not even aware that we're operating from, and how we can replace them or reframe, how we think or come to know certain things, right? And that's a fabulous book, by the way. I'm recommending it to everyone. I was really impressed.
Thank you very much.
Really impressed with it.
No, but it's really true, and beliefs guide us. Beliefs are I don't know, they're a guidance system for our brain. It's how we make sense of the world. And if you can change somebody's belief systems, wow, it's awesome. What everything that can take place. And in a way, I think any good change work does that. In a way, all NLP, all therapy, all sales is sales. Everything is sales. Because think about it. If you're selling somebody service or goods that you're trying to sell, obviously that's sales. But so is coaching. It's sales. I'm selling you on the idea that you don't have limitations. That you do this, you get past that. You can make your way to where you want to get. It's selling people on a new way of thinking, a new belief system. So it's all persuasion. It's all sales, and NLP is brilliant for that.
Okay. So Doug, taking what we just learned, the information you just gave us, take me through the process, for example. Like, here's one of my things, my limiting beliefs, is that I am not a good salesperson.
Okay.
I don't think that I don't think that I'm good at convincing people, to buy things. And that is true, by the way. So how would NLP now help me? Say that again?
You just slipped a little thing in there, and that is true, by the way.
Okay, it's not true. It's not true. It's a limiting belief, and I guess there's a bigger question there, right? Thanks for sharing, my little critic, but what is it that you're really asking? But so I have this belief about myself that I'm not good at sales, and I'm not good at convincing others to buy things. There are not many things that I have to sell, but so that's my belief. Take me through that.
Persuade your kids?
What? Say that again?
But is that true for your kids too, that you can't persuade your kids?
Well, as a mom, I pull the mother card a lot. So, I don't know how well that really works, but yeah, I get to pull the mother card a lot. But I do convince my children to do things. But I don't know. I think it's a different type of relationship. It
is. It's a different kind of relationship, but that's kind of the point. Because, sometimes people say, I need confidence in sales, or I need confidence in this situation. And I have no confidence. It's like, well, you have no confidence? What about in this situation? Are you a good bowler? You have certain circumstances in which you have a great deal of confidence, right? Certain circumstances where you're a great persuader, right? So what you do in NLP, one of the things you do is you anchor those abilities. That feeling of confidence that I have in bowling, you anchor that feeling of confidence, and you bring that feeling of confidence with you to a different place where you haven't had it previously, and say, okay, I'm going to fire off this anchor and feel confidence now in this situation. So one of the things you can do is really manage your state and say, what do I need in sales? I need to feel confidence, maybe. Maybe that's one thing. So you find where it is that I have confidence, anchor it, and bring it into this situation where you desire to have it, right? And the other thing, of course, is to say, how will you know when you are a good salesman? You know, what kind of things will let you to, what kind of evidence do you need to see or hear or feel, right? Visual, auditory, kinesthetic. What do you need for you to get it that you are a good salesperson? What will convince you of that, right? And then set out to do that. Sometimes we're not good at a particular thing, or not as good as we would like to be. Changing a belief and saying, I am good, I am good, I am good, I am good, isn't really going to make us good. It'll make us kind of, you know, silly, you know, kind of in a way. So what we really have to do is do both. We have to bring the confidence in. We also have to develop some skills. You know, you see this kind of thing on, oh, I'm sorry, could you excuse me for a minute? I have to actually open the door for my wife. I locked it, so don't go away. I'll be right back.
Okay. 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 So meanwhile, while Doug is opening the door, this is really great information. And today's topic is using NLP to help improve communication skills and influence. Back to you, Doug.
All right then. So, you know, we've all watched very weird experiences on like American Idol, the auditions kind of thing, where people who have a tremendous amount of confidence and belief in themselves about being a great singer good, and they're really not very good. And it's some of those things have gone viral on YouTube. So even if you don't watch the show, you know what I'm talking about. So there's a distinction between having confidence about and belief in yourself and actually having the skill set. We actually want to have both, don't we? So, you know, having confidence, great. Definitely anchor it, feel good about it. And at the same time, you know, what do you need to see? What do you need to hear? What do you need to feel in order to know that you are, in fact, a good salesperson, you know, a good persuader? NLP has, like I said, the sleight of mouth thing. There's lots of ways you can model excellent salespeople, excellent persuaders. What do they do? How do they set about changing a belief system? You know, it's not just personal power. There's also, you know, listening for the person's needs, aligning your product or service with their major criteria. You know, there's techniques involved. You can learn those. They're techniques. Anybody can learn them, you know? So you find somebody who's really good at what they do. This is kind of the basics of NLP, by the way. You find somebody who's really good at what they do. You say, how do they do that? Let me figure out their strategies, take that programming in, let me learn to do that myself, practice it, then I get good at it. And with the confidence that I have and the skills together, I become a great salesperson.
Okay. So just to reiterate what you said, I would learn, right, how basically I learn, right? Mm-hmm. So, and I would learn to anchor. So let's say confidence and feeling better about being able to sell or influence or use persuasion skills. I would learn techniques about how to feel confident, for maybe anchoring feelings from situations that I did or do feel confident about. Mm-hmm. I'd learn to pull those feelings in, anchor them in a situation that I need to be confident in. Then I would also learn techniques about the person that I'm trying to talk to, persuade, influence, maybe how they see things, they understand the world. I'd be able to step into their world and maybe draw a picture, you know, of whatever it is that I'm trying to persuade them about, right? Because I can now speak their language. I'd be equipped to do that. And then from there, right, I would be able to, I would be able to communicate better. That makes sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And being able to communicate, you understand the other person and they understand you, because now I can talk to them in their language.
Right.
So did I get that correct?
That sounds perfect. Yes. Perfect little summary there. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
that, I think, is absolutely amazing. And I think, you know, like I said, we should have been taught stuff like this when we were children. We're learning, some of us are learning these things as adults, trying to figure them out, you know?
Late.
Yeah.
I used to have a button that said, it's never too late to have a happy childhood.
Where is it? Let me press it.
Not that kind of button. It was a lapel thing.
So, Doug, you are teaching a class here in New York City, an NLP practitioner certification course.
Right.
And it's here in New York City. It's starting November. The first class is November 21st and 22nd. I think that's like the last weekend in November.
No, it's not the last weekend. It's
Second
the
to last.
yeah, it's the weekend before Thanksgiving.
Okay.
So the weekend, I think, is the 27th, like Thursday, I don't know, something like that. So it's the week before Thanksgiving.
Well, the dates are on your website.
Yes.
Okay. So that's the first class.
Yeah,
And
Ericksonian.com, for those of you who don't know. Ericksonian, named after the hypnotherapist Milton Erickson, and Ericksonian hypnosis. So Ericksonian.com is my website, and if you go to trainings there, you can see a course description and all the class dates.
okay. And I want to thank you very much for your time today. I think NLP is a fascinating, fascinating life tool. There are lots of tools. Maybe can I say a toolbox? Because there are lots of tools within that toolbox labeled NLP.
That's a very good way to put it, actually. It's interesting because NLP gives you a lot of tools. I think it was Abraham Maslow who once said that if the only tool you have is a hammer, everything begins to look like a nail. NLP gives you a whole box full of different tools that you can use. You've got the screwdrivers, you got the hacksaws, you got the pliers, you got it's a whole bunch of different things. And if one thing isn't working, it gives you a lot of other options to make. And like we said earlier today, flexibility is power. So the more tools you have, the more powerful and persuasive you will become.
Okay. So Doug, I want to thank you for your time. Again, you are starting your NLP practitioner certification course starting November 21st and 22nd, 2015.
Just to be clear, it's a 7-weekend course. It starts in November. That's only the first of 7 weekends. It's November, December, January, all the way through to the very last weekend of April, and it's like the 30th of April and 1st of May is when we conclude that class. So it's basically 1 weekend a month for 7 months.
Okay. All right. And for more information, folks can go over to Ericksonian.com, ERICKSONIAN.com. So thank you very much for your time. You're leaving today. You have a storytelling course that you're teaching over there in the UK. Lucky folks.
That's correct. Stories from the Outside In Leeds, England, this weekend, Halloween weekend. We're calling it Tall Tales and Scary Stories from the Outside In. We'll be doing this again in March in New York City, but this is a very special Halloween edition.
Okay. Sounds like fun. Well, you have a safe trip.
Thanks.
And have lots of fun and take some audio. Maybe we can put some audio up, and share it with us folks back here in the States. You know where you live?
Great. Sounds good.
Thank you, Doug.
See ya.
Okay.